Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Well, good morning. This is the original Stan in Gainesville, Florida, and today we are discussing cheap LED solutions, knowing what you know now, taking the pressure off students, ticket prices on the rise, and the attack on academic freedom, all on Light Talk.
And this is David coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers.
The originals.
Well, we got the original Stan. Who's the fake Stan or the new Stan?
Let me tell you, there's a fake Stan. He was in all these meetings today.
We'll get to that. Welcome, everyone, to episode 240. Wow, that's twice as much as 120.
Can you divide that by 52? How long?
We're almost done with our fifth season, which is crazy. We're about 2 months done, almost to our sixth season.
I think it's all Steve's fault.
It is. So today we welcome the original Stan back to the show. How you doing, Stan?
Good to be here, and it's been busy, but it's been how should I say?
Busy.
It's been an ethical time.
Oh, we're going to get to that. So we're going to start off today with industry news. Beep, 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 beep. Yeah, there you go. And the first thing on the list is IRTA has canceled the LDI pop-up school recruitment.
This is news to me. I didn't know this until I saw the script today. When did this happen?
Friday.
I would imagine I got an email. Did I get an email?
Did you register for it?
Actually, I didn't.
Well, there you go.
Then you didn't get an email. It went to people who were registered for the event, students and faculty.
I'm not ready to breathe that air yet.
Oh, the air's going to be fine.
I hope we don't err on the side of health.
I think we're all going to be fine.
I hope so.
It's perfect. It's fine.
Listen,
We're
I
all
just
vaccinated.
got my booster. Now, it's different for you, Stan. I don't blame you for not going because you are obviously immune compromised, as you've said on the show before. But, I think for, people who, don't suffer from that, I think we're going to be okay. I got my booster last week. I feel virile. I feel fantastic.
I'm just waiting to take another test. And if my immunity is holding up, then I might actually book a flight to Chicago and go to IRTA's directly. But that would be my first trip since this nuttiness began. So I'm still on the fence. I'm waiting to see. But, I agree with you, David. It should be safe.
Yeah, but you see, if you're worried about anything, I'd worry about the Chicago IRTAs, because that you are trapped inside, and it's freezing outside, and yeah, that's just ripe for
well, you're
for
right.
viruses.
That is sort of it's like Legionnaire's disease. It's like a different scenario.
Legionnaire's disease.
Whatever happened to the good old days of Legionnaire's disease? Whatever happened to that?
Also on the news, even though Stan's not joining us, we are having Light Talk at LDI, which is on Friday at 4 p.m., and it's going to be Steve, it's going to be Ellen, it's going to be me, it's going to be Brackley, and I heard yesterday we may have a special surprise guest.
Ooh, can I be there on Zoom?
No.
No.
You know how quick. We have 10 minutes to
now.
set that up. We have 10 minutes to set that damn thing up. We're lucky we're there live.
That's
you
true.
Remember that? I mean, it's totally insane. Totally insane.
It is.
All right. So listen, our swag has arrived. We're keeping it secret.
Do I get one? Do I get at least one since I helped pay for it?
The last time I helped pay for swag, I got nada. I got bupkis.
Hey, I sent you my swag. I sent you my swag.
Right. And you know something? I'm going to send you back. I'm going to give you back 2 of those because we're going to have plenty of them.
And we've got to do something for Drew. We got to get Drew's mailing address and send him something.
Drew really does need something.
Oh,
That's
my God.
true.
Did you see that?
I
was
did.
Awesome.
I approved it. How did I not approve that?
That was so awesome.
I've watched it 3 times now.
For people who do not know, our friend Drew Belinsky did a moving light
previs on Grand
MA to the Light Talk theme song, and we posted it at the Light Talk group page in Facebook. It is hysterical. I showed it to Lori. She freaked out. She said, "This is incredible." I said, "I know,
pretty,
it's
you know
great."
what? Sort of like being mocked or being imitated is the highest form of compliment. That's it.
There you go. I mean, listen, we had a big year this year because not only did we have Drew Belinsky's previs to the theme song, we were TikTok sensations this year. Remember? That was this year. That was season 5.
Next thing you know, we're going to be in the metaverse with Mark.
The meta. We could join.
We're going to be in the metaverse.
And then finally in the industry news, which is more like academia, over the past week, we've had some appalling events at the University of Florida where the university administration has officially gotten on their knees and kissed the feet of Governor DeSantis in his attempt to destroy academic freedom and free speech. And it was appalling. And I mean, worldwide, this made worldwide news. I couldn't believe it. Oh, I do believe it because it's serious. No one's ever gone out and actually did something so outrageous as what the university did. But the fact of the matter is that the provost and the president of the University of Florida are weak, and they're not standing up for what is right. And they need to resign, in my opinion. That's my little political statement of the day. Stan is awfully quiet. What do you think, Stan?
Did they cut the football budget?
No,
is that what they did?
Yes, that's exactly what they did. No, for people who don't
DeSantis said
know,
we can't spend that much on football every year.
Okay, Stan, why don't you explain what happened? It's quiet. Stan, are you there?
My soul has been torn from its throne, put on the floor and stamped on. My 40 years of an academic have been made a mockery of. Everything we stand for, everything we believe in.
The bottom line is that these 3 professors, I believe they're from political science, were going to testify in court on a suit against Governor DeSantis,
of the state,
who's the governor of Florida, about his basically Jim Crow 2 voter laws and how, again, how it's actually against the Constitution, but also how it affects the people of Florida, especially minorities. And the university basically came down and says, you cannot do this. You cannot go out and testify against an employer who is basically owned by the state, which is total bullshit, because that means that any employer, whether they're the state or not, can basically tell their employees, you can't testify in court, or you can't do this, or you can even work. Because apparently the University of Florida has please correct me if I'm wrong, Stan, they have a policy that any outside work must be approved by the university. And that is ridiculous because they have, in my opinion, no right whatsoever to tell me what to do, whether it's working or anything else in my life. What I do off of, outside of class, is my business and not the university's.
So the institution has a concern, a legitimate one, that I wouldn't want my employees to be spending 90% of their time doing something else and 10% of their time doing the job I pay them for. So there's sort of a reasonable expectation that, we want to make sure your moonlighting is moonlighting and not your primary job. So I've always erred on the side of transparency. But over the years, the policy has grown. It's expanded. It's become more invasive. And these professors that David talked about have done this before. They've never been prohibited. Now, I have some theories about why the policy has become more stringent, and that's in the political realm, and I don't really want to go there because there have been some bad actors within the state university system. But what I want to say is this. People misconstrue what tenure is at a public university. Tenure is not job security. That is incorrect. If anybody perceives tenure as job security, you are incorrect. You can be terminated for a variety of reasons. Just cause, a program being wound down. There's a half a dozen reasons why somebody could be let go. So tenure is not job security. Let's just get that off the table. What tenure is an insurance policy on academic freedom. Now, just a quick little history lesson. Galileo, remember him? He's the guy who said, hey, you know what? I don't think the world's flat, folks. I think I've been looking up in this telescope and I think the world's round. Now, in the early days, before we had science, the church said what was real, right? And the monks, the early monks, were the early professors, and they were studying the world through observation, the empirical method. And the church said, oh no, Mr. Galileo, everybody can see, it's perfectly clear. Just look out your window, the world is flat. What is this round stuff? And he said, I've got some evidence that says we're wrong. And what did they do to him? The church put him away. And so in order to keep the truth or allow the search for truth to continue, the institution of tenure to protect academic discovery and freedom was invented, okay, in medieval Europe. And that's what it's here for. So what does that mean? Academic freedom means a simple thing. It's the search for the truth. And most importantly, that search never ends. And to squash that goes against every principle of what higher education should be. And it even stepped into the bounds of the First Amendment.
Absolutely.
I'm just trying to be fair to both sides, but this was egregious. I've been very embroiled in the whole situation, so I don't want to say any more.
Okay. I think that we could just leave it at that because they're getting such enormous blowback from this already that they're already starting to back down. They're already saying, oh, well, they can testify, but they just can't get paid. Well, what the hell's that all about?
No, I mean, they did the two cardinal sins. First, they lied in public, and then they tried to cover it up.
Exactly. And
okay,
it's so stupid. Yeah, it's so transparent. It's upsetting to everybody in academia. It really is. And it's even more upsetting for poor Stan. And you should be proud of what you're doing, Stan. I mean, what you guys are doing is great. And I think everyone needs to get on board and support each other on this one. Okay, so Stan has our first listener question.
Well, Ellen in New Jersey writes, I need to add LED color changing lighting to my cafetorium cyc, but I only have a budget of $500. Boy, have I got a product for you? Let me put on my salesman's hat. So David will remember this story. We were at LDI one year, and we were just banging around like we do, and we got invited up to the ETC special room where they have the soft lighting and a little music, and they had two things that we fell in love with. The first was we smelled something really great in that room. And they had warm chocolate chip cookies. I'll never forget that. So they matched the warm chocolate chip cookies to this beautiful new product that they called the Color Source Cyc, which was this cute little box with a really nice plastic diffusing filter with RGB LEDs with a really wide dispersion. And we thought, isn't that adorable? You could put that anywhere. So one, I would look at the ETC Color Source Cyc. But I would tell you disappointingly, right now, you'll be waiting 30 weeks to get one.
30 weeks?
That's correct.
That's over half a year.
Yes, it is. There is a supply chain issue. Even though the stock market broke 36,000 today, there's still a supply chain issue. And then, but there's another alternative. And I want to give a nice plug to Altman, who I must say, if you haven't, I want to say this old joke. If you haven't have you seen a Ford lately? You might want to take a look at some of the stuff that Altman is producing. They really stepped up their game. So you might look at the Altman Spectra Cyc, which comes in 3 different sizes. It's a 50, a 100, and a 200, and really nice. It's an open face fixture. It's got a patent pending diffusing element over the LED strip. Beautiful color. I can't remember who makes the LED. Nice output, and it's in your price range. And then, of course, you can always add on more of these. So those are the 2 things that I would recommend for that small cafetorium cyc that you've got. You probably don't have a lot of throw distance, and either one of those products will work really well for you.
I think I would immediately go to Gear Source, and I would start looking at used equipment and seeing what's available on there. $500, is not a lot of money. I mean, it's hard to buy anything for $500, and particularly what you're wanting, LEDs and color changing and I think realistically you're into about $3,000 to light this cyc. The other thing you can do, Ellen, is go chat with your principal, and the principal is going to be on your side to start with. But we're thinking chain of command here. And now your principal needs to go talk to the assistant superintendent and say, this is not just a problem at my school. There's a dozen schools in the district. We all have the same thing. Let us be the prototype school. Let us see what we can do that's going to be a good solution for the other 5 or 6 schools that have the same problem. And then you kind of get some interest going. I mean, that certainly happens here in Dallas. One school becomes a prototype school, and then they really expand into the entire system after they've kind of played with the system for a year to see the pros and cons of it. So that's a possibility. This is George in Kansas, and George writes, do you think theater tickets are reasonably priced? Well, George, let's cast our mind back. You remember when you went to see Britney or Beyonce, and remember that when the cost was the same as dinner with wine and it wasn't so bad? Now it's going to cost you a weekend kind of vacation rental. Yeah, I mean, from 2015 until 2019, average ticket prices for the top 100 rock and roll tours in North America rose from about $75 to about $100. Now you think that doesn't sound too bad. Well, the top prices, when you look at, and I'm using Polestar here as an example, or where I'm getting my data from. Lady Gaga averaged $300 a ticket. Rolling Stones were $226. Now, when I say Lady Gaga averaged $300, keep in mind I'm averaging in all those low-ball ticket prices also. But, we'll look at this concerts and we'll look at Broadway a little bit. So, why are concert tickets so expensive in 2021? It's the cost of travel, the cost of food, accommodations, all of this adds to ticket prices. If you have a small artist, they can go to a smaller market, and that helps keep costs down. And they'll play these smaller shows in smaller towns, but also their box office is smaller too. As you step up, so here in Dallas, if I go to the American Airlines Center, all of a sudden everything goes up. The cost of getting that facility goes up. Now, at that same time, around 2015, Broadway ticket price topped about $100 a ticket. Now, if I go back and look at that, the Book of Mormon, was hitting $215 a seat, and the top price was $400 a seat. So this has been with us for a while. With Broadway reopening, I looked at 4 shows: Wicked, Hadestown, Phantom of the Opera, Lion King. Wicked, $89, top price $212. Hadestown, $50, top price $350. Phantom of the Opera, $30, top price $250. Lion King, $75, top price $275. So there is a range there. So I don't think they've priced themselves out of the market of the average, man and woman driving over from Ohio to see a show. We're getting ready to go to Las Vegas here in a few days. Cirque, I looked at their O prices, their aquatic show. Bottom price is $150. Top price is about $200. So that's a little bit tighter. But when you start looking at these ticket prices, I don't think they're out of sync with the times. I mean, if you're a producer, think about this. You have salaries for the actors, the musicians, the crew, the designers. You're paying royalties on top of that. You're renting equipment. You're renting a space. You're building a show. You have more equipment costs. And don't even get me started about insurance. I can't imagine what the insurance numbers are for a show like a Cirque show or a circus show where audience can be injured. You have overhead of being a producing organization. You have to form a payroll company. Think about advertisement. If I'm doing a Broadway show or the Rolling Stones are coming to New York, I think a single sheet on the Sunday New York Times, I think that's over $100,000 for a single sheet, and it may be even greater than that. I didn't check my number on that, but it's incredibly high. And again, back to travel. So you can go online. You can look at Broadway makes these numbers available. You can see what the box office numbers are, and you can do the math, and you can kind of take a look at cost versus profit. And these are pretty tight shows. I looked some years ago. I was looking at something. I think it was AIDA. And AIDA was running about $800,000 or $900,000 a week in ticket sales against a operating cost of about $650. So, they're tight. They're tight numbers.
I have an answer to the question.
What's that?
No, it's the epitome of an elitist art form.
It is.
And frankly, it hurts us.
Right. I agree with Stan on this one, Steve.
But I don't know I don't know what the cause is per se. Would you speculate on the cause?
Well, he did. He speculated that
It's terribly
production
expensive.
expenses and insurance and rental, the theater, and which are all valid
Right.
causes.
So somebody's becoming exceedingly wealthy on that, right?
Yeah. Well, the producers usually.
I don't know. I mean, the question is, what's happening in regional theater? Where are the ticket prices there? I'm not really sure. What's happening in regional opera? Everybody. I'm saying, you're paying for my design fee. You're paying for my retirement. Do we really think in a rock and roll show there's going to be an uprigger who's going to risk his life uprigging for $15 an hour? So everybody wants to go home and have a turkey dinner and a Volvo, and they want to be able to have insurance and a retirement plan. So. The cost of entertainment is going up. I mean, David, you and I, we remember what it was to go to a rock. I went to see Black Sabbath, $3.50 for a ticket.
Yeah, $3,
when I was
$4,
a
$5.
junior in high school.
It's not the number of the dollars; it's the purchasing power. What $3.50 bought you then versus what it's not. You can't just look at numbers per se.
Well, $3.50 cost me about an hour. That was about an hour work at McDonald's.
Right. And so what's an hour at McDonald's now? It's not $3.50.
It's 15.
Yeah.
But that's still 5 times the amount.
It's a 5 times multiplier.
And then you multiply $5 a ticket. That means tickets should only be $25. They're not. They're $1,200 to see the Rolling Stones. And let's talk about the poor Rolling Stones. It's obvious that they don't get money because they're still touring. These poor guys are still working. It's terrible. One of them just died, for God's sake. They're never going to be able to retire. Those poor guys. Oh, man.
Ozzy did. Ozzy Osbourne retired.
You are listening to Light Talk, and today we are sponsored by...
Just in time for the holiday season, Wilmette Corporation presents the Inspirational Commode Bidet Booster. Do you remember our groundbreaking product, the Portable Tech Table Inspiration Shower? Well, just like COVID-19 vaccinations, we have discovered that the power of the inspirational shower wanes over time. So just like Pfizer and Moderna, Wilmette Corporation has developed a booster for its inspirational shower, the Inspirational Commode Bidet Booster. How did we do it? Well, science has discovered that just the right amount of stimulation invigorates the creative spirit. To receive this creative rush, many artists install bidets to end off their bathroom experience with a refreshing, cool spritz. Wilmette Corporation has taken this European idea of ultimate cleanliness and creative inspiration and added some real horsepower. Understand, this is no ordinary bidet. Powered with over 2,000 psi of water pressure, our Inspirational Commode Bidet Booster will not only invigorate your brainwaves, it will thoroughly prepare you for the overwhelming onrush of spectacular creative ideas that appear in your mind. Follow that with a quick hop into our patented inspirational shower, and your colleagues will think that you are a genius. Made from only military-grade materials, our patented Mad Max water flow regulator is strong enough for any bottom, from the toughest roadie to the gentlest prop artisan. Wow, that was intense.
And I like it too.
But what about those times when you are stuck out at the production table and you need an idea right there and then? With no time to excuse yourself for a visit to the lavatory, our new portable tech table Inspirational Commode Bidet Booster is just what you need. Step into the plastic-sealed waterproof shorts, fitted for the most uncomfortable theater seats, plug it into your USB port, adjust the Mad Max regulator, and voila, lighting ideas rush into your frontal cortex like a tidal wave. And there is no mess. All the excess water is automatically drained into our portable Margarita to-go machine, sold separately. So for this Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and Festivus, be sure to buy the most thoughtful present you can ever get your loved one. The Inspirational Commode Bidet Booster comes in home and production table versions. Holiday-themed portable commode shorts are also available. The Inspirational Commode Bidet Booster must be used with extreme caution. Be careful when using the Mad Max regulator on ludicrous mode, as an overdose of creative ideas could cause strokes, heart seizures, shortness of breath, uncontrolled bowel movements, blindness, hallucinations, and impotence. Do not drink margaritas made with the wastewater of the portable tech table Inspirational Commode Bidet Booster. Whammy Corporation takes no responsibility for any damage or injury caused by the misuse of the device. All sales final.
Does it work with an espresso?
You know, that'd be a good idea to have an espresso machine also involved in this thing. I must tell you guys.
You were inspired?
I was inspired because I just installed 2 bidets. I finally followed your leads because I know you guys did this.
I love mine.
Yeah,
I've had it since a long time ago.
And I said, what's taking me so long?
I'm using it right now.
And you're getting great ideas.
This is too much information.
Did you get the little accessory that you can drop a cup of Alka-Seltzers into?
No, I don't.
Oh, God. And now that I'm done with that, completely finished, I'm done. I'm coming out. Back to Light Talk.
Oh, my God. Well, the sound of those rabid ducks means that once again, it's time for Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About is all about how do you teach working under pressure to young lighting designers? Should their process in school productions be gentle and stress-free? Or do you want to recreate the pressures of the profession where everyone sees their artistic creations and their mistakes? Well, we brought this up because Stan had it sort of an epiphany this past few weeks.
I have a lot to say about this. Or at least maybe I can encapsulate it into something concise. I had a realization. If you're a dancer and you're learning a new routine, you're doing it in the studio. If you are a set designer and you're designing a set, most of the errors happen in the studio or in your office or wherever you do the work. Actors in the rehearsal studio. And we do a lot of teaching in the classroom in lighting, but the growth, the learning, the breakthroughs, happen in public. I had this realization that we can put people through, all kinds of routines in class and practice and preparation, but still you are performing, and you're performing without a lot of rehearsal. And you're going to make mistakes. And particularly if you're a student, you are learning in public. And that means you're making mistakes in public. And sometimes that learning is painful. And that pain is not just felt by the student going through it, but everybody around them, the professor, the staff, the rest of the company. And I think if my students knew that going in, if I prepare them for that, I've never said that to a student, by the way, you're going to be messing up because it's part of the process. But you're going to be doing that in public. So how do you prepare them for that?
The question is, do you agree with adding pressure to the laboratory experience? I guess that's really what the question is.
I think the thing I prefer doing is I prefer bringing that pressure in the classroom. And we talk about this idea that when you move into the theater, it can be a difficult time for the very reasons that Stan points out. So we totally acknowledge that. We totally agree with that. It is why the classroom becomes so important. It's why I would say the pressure of having your plot correct, having your hookup correct, having your cue list correct, having an understanding of the script. You can, if you're not prepared, and a lot of students don't want to prepare in the classroom. They see the classroom as a necessary evil they have to go through to get to the stage. And I was that way. I felt that way when I was, 20, 21 years old. Just let me get in the theater and I can show you what I can do. I think if you can get them to where they're working under the pressure of deadlines in the classroom, it must be done Wednesday, and there is no excuse. Then when they move into the theater, at least they understand why you are preaching that gospel to them.
Well, let me clarify a little bit. I think you're right. I think that the pressure of deadlines and preparation can be handled in the classroom. But what was interesting on my experience recently was there was artistic growth, and that's kind of hard to see in the classroom.
I would agree. I would agree totally.
And that's where the breakthrough happened for the student had a breakthrough. It was a beautiful thing to watch. But the first 2 days were not pretty. and then I had to be very, my mentoring style I had to intervene, and because the student has a good heart and a good soul, took the advice well and said, I took what you said to heart. I'm coming in with a different workflow tomorrow, and used all of the tools that were taught in the classroom. But artistic growth is really a difficult thing to do and a beautiful thing when it happens, right? And so I think we always have to be prepared to go through that with the student, is what I'm saying. That's my message.
I have a question for you, Stan, as a follow-up to what you just said. When he was having this difficulty, and we all remember what that was like, and we see it actually with our students. How many people were in the theater when that was happening?
Everyone.
So then he was able to handle the situation, the pressure. Do you think if no one was there, with just him and the director, it would have been much better?
No, well, this is happening in these, in these sessions where you have the actors on stage, the directors there, stage managers are there, everybody's working.
So it's not unlike a professional situation.
No, it's not. I would say that I don't know, because I was remote. I was on the stand cam, so I couldn't feel the vibe. But I'm in conversation with lots of people while it's happening. So I would imagine there was a lot of frustration and tension felt. And I'm sure he's a smart guy. He knew it too, right? But he didn't know how good he could be, because he was still working from old habits, right? And so, to his credit, because he's a mensch of a person, he didn't lose his temper. He didn't close down. He didn't shut down. He stayed with it. And after every rehearsal, myself and my electrician, who's also a designer, we were doing the mentoring thing with him, and he listened. But sometimes it was tough to hear, and there were some technical issues where I had an associate who was not. I had to really kind of go in and do a demonstration over Zoom, but like, here's what you're going to do. Don't tell me, don't defend what you're doing. Just be quiet and do what I tell you, and then I'll explain to you why this is a better workflow. And I was able to do that. But I think to your question, this particular student you couldn't have asked for a better response, and so the growth really happened.
I'm just thinking back to when I was a student, and how pressure-packed those weekends were. And that continued into profession. And I'm grateful for my mentors setting up a situation like that, where I had to learn how to deal with pressure. And I had to learn how to keep my cool, because you don't want to lose your cool when you're in the profession. It's too late. Once you do that, then you've already started your career, and people are going to just stop, not hire you. So if you go through learning how to handle it in school, where, your failure is okay, but you still don't want to fail, but you're learning how to handle pressure, you're probably better off in the profession. Don't you think?
Well, it's interesting, because let me add another layer of texture to this story. So one thing that we've changed at UF, to my production manager's credit, is she has rearranged the schedules so that she is building in the time to take some of that pressure off the students. So that let's call it learning time. So is pressure ethically the right thing to do? Is the profession behaving correctly by putting lighting designers under that kind of pressure? Or should we have more humane schedules?
Even with more humane schedules, that time isn't magically going to come back. You can get away with that at the university because you're not renting that theater. But if you're going to ask a producer to rent a theater for another week so that the designers can get their acts together, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think we have shifted it at the university.
Right. At the university, it's easy.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know what? But if his skill set or her skill set is stronger, then when they get into the high pressure situation, they'll be able to respond to it better. We've got to give them time to build muscle. Yeah. It's the gym.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think everyone's different. It's really hard to, some people need a little more than others. It's just, it depends on the student.
Yeah, I don't think I have an answer. I'm just sharing the experience.
No, it's great. And I think it's a very interesting topic, because that pressure does exist, as we all know, in the profession. And I just think about, boy, if I was back at the Miami Opera My first show, I was remounting a show. I was assisting Gilbert, and I was remounting it into another theater. And the amount of pressure that I had, because I only had 8 hours to do it, it was a major opera, about 400 fixtures, and I had to focus it. The board was being pre-programmed while I was focusing it, and then I had to look at the cues and adjust the cues, and all that happened within 6 to 8 hours. If I didn't know how to handle pressure, I probably would have melted.
And do you have post-traumatic stress from that experience?
Maybe that explains everything. Maybe
it's tongue-in-cheek because there's a hint of truth there.
That's funny. I never thought about that. This could have saved years of therapy. Really? Maybe
now we're getting into true confessions. Here we go.
I don't know, Steve. What do you think? You think it's best to keep the stress or to relieve the stress? Or just sit on a bidet. Maybe that'll solve everything.
I think there's multi-level. So how do we work with an undergraduate doing their first show? And that kind of has one set of rules. How do we deal with a graduate student, a first-year graduate student? How do we deal with a third-year graduate student? What is pressure? Is pressure saying stop taking notes and start finding solutions? Maybe that is, maybe that isn't. I think if you're a lighting designer, you got to have 5 different ideas. Now, how do you get to that level? And that's the journey you make. But I've been there also, where I've been on tour and all of a sudden things have just gone sideways, and you've got to make a decision. And there's not 3 or 4 hours to make the decision. There's 3 or 4 minutes. Otherwise, there's not going to be a show that night. Or there's not going to be a tech that night. There's not going to be a show the next night. So I think the real pressure, that students face when they're in the theater, a little bit in the classroom, but mostly in the theater, the same thing we feel. No one wants to be humiliated. No one wants to feel people are talking about them behind their back. So how do we create an environment in the theater that is safe? And that's hard. That is really hard. And it's the student has to bring a lot into the room. And I don't mean a lot of skill. I mean a lot of trust into the room. Because, once you lose that trust, it's all over.
Well, I did not mean to say that. My mentors did not support me. And it was a safe place to fail. However, you're under self-imposed pressure. Like Steve
Absolutely.
said. Absolutely. You want to be, this is your artwork. And everyone's watching you. And you want it to be good. All right. Well, I think that we all agree that the learning laboratory needs to be a safe place. But I think we also agree that there is going to be some amount of stress there. And whether or not the director or the designers or time puts it on them, it's going to happen. And we also agree that it depends on the student. But it's hard to change that atmosphere from student to student. You're just going to have to learn how to approach that student, and how to critique that student. That's about all you can do because you can't expand time.
Well, my Lumen brother David has our last question.
Emma in London writes, knowing what you know now, and after that long let's talk about the discussion, what are a couple of things you would do differently in structuring either an undergrad or grad design curriculum?
I only have one idea.
Okay.
She wants
Go for it.
Go for it, man.
A couple of things. I don't have a couple. I would just say, because I just went through a complete rewrite of the undergrad program. I'm going to speak in metaphor. If you can, don't try and fix the plane while it's in flight, because you'll screw it up. Shut it down. Stop the program. Take
Crash
6
or land.
Take 6
you gotta land the plane.
Land the plane. Put it in the hangar, and then rebuild it. Because trying to rebuild the thing when it's at 40,000 feet, you're going to make mistakes. So it took us a year to really think through a new BFA program. So that would be my one big, if you can do it. And for us, it was COVID that allowed us to do it.
Yeah, a lot of professionals basically took the time of COVID and said, I don't want to be in the theater anymore. I'm going to do something else. A lot of people worked at McDonald's, did the same. A lot of people worked at bookstores, did the same. It was a great opportunity. It's horrible. It's a horrible situation. We're going through a worldwide pandemic, but it did offer people time.
Yeah, that's what was missing. We've made changes in the curriculum over the last 23 years here. I've been in Florida, but we were never able to stop and relax and talk and really look at the whole thing holistically and do what we thought was in the best interest of our students in the moment and with some prediction for the future, but because the plane was always flying and we never landed it till last year.
It is possible because it's been done before. I know many, many years ago, the University of Texas in Austin, they did it. They basically said, we're not doing any shows next year. None, zero. We're not doing any productions because we're going to rethink this entire thing.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. I mean, that is the way to do it.
Yeah, and that's what they did. And it takes a lot of balls to do that. They did it. And obviously, they did a great job because it's a great school. But that was at least 20, 30 years ago when they did that. I remember that. That was really cool. I don't know, Steve, what do you think?
I think the hardest thing is getting students to talk about a show. So I think if you don't have a class in which they can talk about a show, analyze the show, go through it line by line, talk about what the objectives are, why people are saying what they're saying, I think they have a hard time designing a show. John Gleason and Peggy Clark were talking about the union exam some years ago, and they had 34 people taking the exam. This was in 1976, and 31 of those people were doing a pretty good job, but the other 3 were doing a terrible job. And Peggy put her finger on it. This is an old Theater Crafts article. She said they don't know anything about fabric. They know nothing about paint. They know nothing about architecture. They know nothing about reading a play. They are outstanding stagehands. They are outstanding technicians. They are more expert in what lighting equipment does than she does. But they can't light a show. They can actually put the lights in the right places, but they can't really choose the color or the timing or the balance of the show. And their argument is because we don't think about the world of the show. We just don't. It's very hard for students to do that. There's not a lot of time to do that as an undergraduate. You know, you kind of maybe sort of do it in text analysis class, but you never really go as deep as you can go. And so it's always kind of a surface thing. If they're doing Macbeth, then they got the witches scene figured out, but they don't have anything else figured out. If they're doing Romeo and Juliet, they kind of got the balcony scene figured out, but they can't figure anything else out. And it isn't even bad work. It's just not going anyplace. Or as the New York Times likes to say, perfectly adequate lighting.
Steve, I'm glad you said that because that brings me to my answer. I would teach much more holistically, even more holistically than I do now. You know, it's like what Kirsten said a few weeks ago. We're in a post-disciplinary world, and we need to think holistically about art and about theater.
I want to use this opportunity to balance out all the not so good stuff we said about the University of Florida early in the show. Now, I don't know what it is, if it's something in the Florida water or the fact that we're the flagship institution or whatever, but we have made some changes where we now, in our creative processes here, and I sit in these work sessions with our students and the directors where they're just talking about the work. And I have been so impressed with everything that you are saying should be there, that they are talking about the work, whether it's dance or theater, the play. I mean, it just, you know, we were just getting through an Antigone process, which is a play that I've been putting forward for 10 years, and they're finally doing it. And the woman who's directing it is a professional director is guesting in. And watching the process and the way they're speaking about the work, I am just floored by how beautiful and how deep and enriching it is. They're not acting like technicians at all. Now, I'm just speaking from my school. So even though the school administration is behaving like bozos, my students are outstanding. So I just want to say that.
Well, that's always the case. And that is my other suggestion is I would outlaw all administrators from the campus. That's what I would do to make the program better. Okay. Well, the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tells us that once again you've spent another morning and into the afternoon listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on Spotify, iTunes, Google, YouTube, livedesignonline.com, Amazon Prime Music, and just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website on lighttalk.org and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to the podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
Since I made a lot of statements and opinions that could get me in deep trouble with the governor
They
of the
can't find you.
state of
You've got
Florida,
tenure. You're fine.
that's right, and my university administration could be coming down on me like a lead balloon soon.
Yeah.
I do have a law firm. And if you decide to litigate me, the law firm of Fleck, Flux, Flair, Glare, and their paralegal Snoot will defend me until my retirement fund is depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers, coming to you from Long Beach, Gainesville, and the Republic of Texas.
And be sure to join us next week when we chat about more useless things and explore the crazy shenanigans in our industry.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Toodles.
I'll see you from jail.
Light Talk.